Good morning. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Directors of the State of Hawaii Department of Agriculture. I am the chair, Sharon Hurd. Prior to calling the meeting to order, Stephen Dalton will explain how the public can participate in this hybrid meeting, which can be accessed by video conference, telephone, or in person.
Good morning. As an attendee, your microphone will be automatically muted during the meeting unless you are providing testimony. For each agenda item you wish to testify on, please click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. Board staff will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking in order to prevent audio feedback. When testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and your organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item. I don't see any members calling in via phone, so I won't read those instructions at this time.
Okay, just going to remind again that testifiers, you are held to a 2-minute time limit per agenda item. Okay, going to call the meeting to order. The meeting is called to order at 9:08 this morning. We're going to do a roll call vote. I will take the roll call of the board members present. When your name is called, please indicate your presence with a here or present and state who, if anyone over the age of 18, is present in the room with you. This also serves as a roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. Okay, Sharon Hurd is present. Russell Suji.
Present and alone.
Dr. Anya Vikotic.
Present and alone.
Okay, Mary Alice Evans. Mary Alice is excused. Diane Lay.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Vincent Mina.
Present and alone. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Fred Cowell. Fred Cowell is excused. Randy Cabral.
Present and alone.
You. And Young. N is excused. And James Gomes.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to be approving the minutes of the July 25th meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. May I have a second?
Second, Anya.
Thank you. The minutes. All we have to do is
Public comment.
okay. So does anyone from the public wish to have a comment on the minutes of the previous meeting?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, any discussion by the board?
Chair, I'm going to abstain from the vote since I wasn't there.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing none, the motion to approve the minutes is approved. Okay, item 4. We're going to take the communications from the divisions and administration. The first section would be from the Agricultural Loan Division. Request to approve to activate and set parameters for DOA's emergency loan program to provide relief relating to wildfires in the counties of Maui and Hawaii. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. And second?
Second, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. And now presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chairperson and members of the board. I'm Dean Matsukawa, Acting Administrator for the Agricultural Loan Division. This morning, the division is requesting the board's approval to activate and set the parameters for the emergency loan program. On August 8th, wildfires affected the islands of Maui and Hawaii, causing significant damage and burning thousands of acres. The damaging easterly winds caused catastrophic damage and loss of life in Maui County and damage in Hawaii County. Acting Governor Sylvia Luke issued 3 proclamations declaring a state of emergency on August 8th and 9th, 2023. Due to the potential for damages and possible future economic losses to farm operations in the area, the program is being proactive and recommending activation of the emergency loan program. The recommended parameters are that the maximum loan amount would be $350,000. Interest rate would be set at 3%. Loan terms would be determined on a case-by-case basis. And the credit elsewhere to be waived for loans $150,000 or less. Residency requirements shall not apply, and collateral requirements may be modified or waived on a case-by-case basis. Emergency loan applications will be accepted until February 29th, 2024. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Thank you, Dean. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony? Anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised in the public.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion. I see a hand from Diane Lay.
Thank you, Chair. Good to see you again, Dean. And here-
Nice to see you. Back again.
Yes, in time for some extra work. So I had 2 questions. One is how much is total funds available for if the board moves forward with this emergency loan program?
I think we have about 750,000 in the emergency loan fund. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget ceiling for that. So that fund is kind of frozen for us right now, but we are able to tap into our regular fund, and there's about 9 million in the fund, and I think we have a budget ceiling of about 5 million for this year that's available.
Okay, thank you. And understanding the flexibility needed in the state's budget at this point. And then the second question is, I saw the press release went out, the proactive press release. That was great. Let people know that, we're trying to be there for them. Can you give us a clue of maybe how many either have called to express an interest or actually started an application for?
We haven't had any actual reports of damage. Some of the farmers we did talk to said they were okay. They didn't experience much damage. I heard there was wind damage up in Kula area to some of the persimmon farms, and FSA is reporting some of their farmers have damage also. So we're not sure when they'll be activating theirs, but I think our interest rate is a little bit lower than theirs. So we just wanted to, normally we would wait to get a little bit of better estimates of the damage, but in this case, we wanted to be proactive and at least have the program ready to go. If we needed to modify the terms, I can come back to the board and modify it if we need to increase the amounts or time frame to accept applications and things like that.
Okay, no, I appreciate taking effort and moving this forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Recognizing Vincent Mina.
Thank you, Chair. Dean, what is, good morning. What is the,
morning.
is there any latitude towards the interest? One of the telling words in your presentation was catastrophic. And, is there any way we can waive interest in that respect? I know, some of these loans, when they're amortized over a period of time, ends up being quite a lot of money. And to get these farmers who are applying, who would have experienced catastrophic damage, is there any way to waive interest?
Unfortunately for our program, by statute, the lowest we can charge is 3%. So this session, I think we're going in with a bill to kind of lower the rates for the farmers, and we're gonna lower the overall rate down to 2. So that can be discussed whether how much we want to go down, but there's a floor on how low we can charge right now by law.
Yeah, because I know we're dealing with another agenda item for disposition and filing bankruptcy, and there's not many of us out there who can actually farm for a living, and it's something where I just feel for those. I understand what farmers are up against, and just want to see what kind of latitude the board, the department would have. I know you talk about statute, and I understand that too. Yet at the same time, there's always ways of being able to adjust that. So, is there anything that we could do, Chair, as a message from the board? Could we vote as a board to send a message to the governor in the spirit of catastrophic emergencies, as opposed to deer getting into my land and I need a fence?
I would say that the board is welcome to put together a recommendation to the governor, but the statute, I would say, has precedence over that. Yeah. So the way to get to your point, Vincent, would be to change the law, make it, say something like the Board of Agriculture could decide to waive interest rates, and then put that, codify that, and then we can move forward with something like that. But right now it's 3%, and should you want the law to be less than 2%, then as Administrator Dean said, we could certainly discuss that. Sounds reasonable. I mean, the level of devastation is overwhelming, and we want farmers to come back. So
Right. People got to eat, yeah.
yeah, so good suggestion, Vincent, good suggestion. We'll take that into account as we put together legislation for 2024.
I think he was over to go back after this. Turn this week out. And can't promise to go. I can just say that. I'll take a look at it. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah, Vincent, we have some new information. The council will go back and look through statute and see if there's any wiggle room on what we can do at this point. If we can accommodate some sort of a waiver, we will. And we'll get back to you on that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Chair.
Vincent, just to let you know, I don't think there's any wiggle room under existing law. I think that what I could look at possibly is whether there is some emergency power we could invoke, but that tends to be a little limited. So I don't want to promise anything, but I'll take a look at whether we can reduce the interest rate under some emergency, extraordinary power. But they tend to be sort of limited, right? So because when you overturn a statutory provision, the legislature tends to, limit your ability to do so. But I'll do my best and try to get back to you next month.
Yeah, thank you. One more comment, if I can, Chair. I think the legislature would best be served to show how the department feels about, at 0.4% of our budget, it's like, come on, legislature, the department is as important and essential as any other department in the government. And this is our farmers. And so I just would like to find any way at all possible to communicate to the legislature, because there's no farmers on that end. So they don't understand the gravity. So I just thank you for your time about this, though. I appreciate you looking into it.
Thank you, Vincent, from the perspective of a farmer. Recognizing Randy Cabral.
Thanks, Chair. My question is similar to Vince's, but it's more on the requiring the credit denial. Is that by statute, or can we delete that requirement?
You can delete it. if the board wants to change that parameter, they can take out that requirement for emergency loans.
Okay, just given the timing and everything, by the time somebody tries to get a loan, it may take some time. So in the sense of urgency, I would propose that we drop that credit denial.
Yeah, so there should be a, ask for the move on and the second agree to that
Okay.
change.
Chair is asking if there's a motion to move
If we move on.
on.
So, I'm sorry, if the person who made the motion, the move on, and the person who made the second agree to that, they could say that now to amend the motion. Otherwise, you're gonna need a separate motion to amend. I think the motion was made by Jimmy and Randy. So is that something you would want to change your motion to include, or if not, then Randy, you need to make a separate motion.
Jimmy, would you like?
Make the amendment to that motion in regards to Randy's comment on it to deny.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay, all right. So the motion is then amended.
Okay, so the motion is amended to delete the need for credit on an emergency loan base for emergency loan applicants. Okay, do we move on with further testimony?
Yeah.
Okay, recognizing Dr. Anya.
I just have a quick question. Do we have an estimate of total loss, financial loss to agriculture on Maui and Big Island based on the fires?
Not it, from what I understand, I've been involved in discussions along with Dean, and we are, because of the need to prevent overlap and duplication of data, we're trying to decide which agency, whether it be FSA, Maui Department of Agriculture, HDOA, Farm Bureau, HFUU, who's going to be the collector of this data so that we can sort it out. We're working on it. We don't have it yet. What about you, Dean?
Yeah,
Same
it's a
thing.
little bit too preliminary right now to get a firm estimate on the damages. I think a lot of the farmers are just going back and just seeing where they're at and trying to recover as best they can before they get up, before they report. They're still assessing too. Some of them I heard couldn't get into the farms too for a while, so.
The reason why I ask is because do we have enough money in our emergency loan to actually cover the cost if the farmers are asking, and if not, should we try to look for the additional funds, emergency funds from legislators? Because, for example, if the loss is in millions and millions to the farmers, then more of them might be asking for the higher amounts in the future.
Right, I think that the
Yeah.
ceiling that you said was 5 million?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
Oh,
available.
5 million. Okay, sorry, I thought that it was, sorry, I misunderstood that. Thank you for clarification on that.
okay, so it was 9 million in the fund,
Fund,
but 5 million.
million
sealed.
under the seal, yeah.
Thank you. Vincent?
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to clarify too that not only the damage to the farm, but I know personally our business has dropped to half because of all the hotels being affected and all the tourists not coming in. So that's another aspect of all this. Thank you.
Yeah. That's why we're looking at economic loss. So I think a lot of our farmers are reporting their markets are gone. Yeah.
Thank you, Vincent. Jimmy?
Yeah, we talking farmers, but we also have to take in consideration the ranchers. There were small and big ranchers that have been affected, not only fence lines, water lines, livestock that has been lost. So we do have ranchers, and I know some small ones and big ones here on Maui who has been really affected. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Hey, Kalamai, Jimmy, it's always in my words as a farmer, including the ranchers though, too, but thank you.
Yeah, me too. I always use that as in the same sentence, the same meaning.
Any other board discussion? Okay, calling for the vote. For the motion as amended to accept the request with the idea of removing the requirement for credit on the emergency loan. Okay, are there any objections? Okay, hearing none, the motion to approve, the motion has been approved. Okay. Thank you, Dean.
Oh, thank you.
We're going on to the second item, which is the request that one loan to Hikari Nursery and Landscaping Incorporated be referred to the Attorney General for disposition and or collection. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved. Diane.
Second, Jimmy.
And Jimmy, thank you. Presentation by staff.
Okay, the division second request is to have the bar Hikari Nursery and Landscaping Incorporated loan account be referred to the Department of the Attorney General for collection and or disposition. The $200,000 Class A loan was approved by the Board of Agriculture on July 16, 1992 to Hikari Nursery, a partnership between Lou Nakamura and Elston Takayama. The loan provided $125,000 to develop 2 Paʻa agricultural park lots and $75,000 to pay off an existing new farmer loan. The development funds cleared the site, constructed a 17,424 square foot Conley greenhouse, a 2,560 square foot warehouse, and a 20,000 square foot Saran shade house. The company produced ornamental potted plants for export, with the primary product being Dracaena plants. In 1992, the company was incorporated, with each partner having a 50% share. Mr. Takayama left the company in 1995, leaving Lou Nakamura as the sole stockholder. The company struggled with having sufficient plant volume and inventory to be profitable. In 1998, a $65,000 operating loan was provided to help expand production and volume. The effects of 9/11 terrorist attack in 1991 had devastating effects on the operation, with immediate loss of demand and cancellation of orders. The recovery of markets took several years, resulting in the loan becoming permanently delinquent. Since then, the company over the years has faced numerous issues, including nematode issues restricting export, natural disasters, including Tropical Storm Isel in 2014, and 2 Paʻa lava flows in 2014 and 2018. The company has been liquidating assets to repay its state loan, and in 2012 sold one of the Paʻa leaseholds to pay off the $65,000 operating loan. The Nakamuras have used off-farm income to try and repay their loans, and in 2022, the last leasehold was sold and proceeds used to reduce their loans. Despite the farm being shut down, the Nakamuras have continued to make monthly payments of $1,027 per month. They are now proposing to settle their account for a lump sum payment of $50,000 to settle their account. Staff recommends that the account be referred to the Department of the Attorney General for disposition and collection, with the recommendation to accept the $50,000 lump sum payment as settlement for the debt.
Thank you, Dean. Does anyone from the public wish to make testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, discussion by the board. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to express my appreciation to the Nakamura family for all the efforts they've put in over the years to try to have a profitable operation, and just wish them all the best in the years ahead. So thank you. I'll be voting to support this request.
Thank you, Diane. Further board discussion? Okay, hearing none.
No, Vince.
Oh, is there, oh, I'm sorry, Randy. Randy.
Yeah, Chair, it's related to this, but is it possible to get something to tell us what our default rate has been on loans? And maybe for the last 5 years of all the effort given by the Attorney General's office as far as collection, what is the percentage that we've actually been successful on collecting?
So unless you have that at this point, Dean?
No, I don't know how much they've actually collected. There's about 18 accounts at the Attorney General's office now. I think it's about 869,000, something in that range. And it's about maybe 3.8% of our total portfolio that's over at the Attorney General's office now. I think within the last 5 years, nothing has been written off, but some of them I'm pretty sure should have been written off.
But do you think we can get that to Dean? I mean to Randy?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We can.
Randy, we'll have that to you.
Thank you.
Okay. And Vince, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just a sad commentary for me that these folks would even have to pay the 50,000, being that their health is deteriorating, and part of that health deteriorating is all the challenges trying to make ends meet and farming. And I mean, I get it, and so I'm just wondering, is there any latitude for disposition for just to let these people enjoy the rest of their life, for God's sake, instead of taking $50,000 that they probably don't have really to put towards this, but that in their responsibility, feeling responsible, and I applaud that in that spirit. But is there anything that we could do just to say, hey, we really appreciate you wanting to bring this forward, and at the same time we want to extend this to you. I just feel for that.
The Department of the Attorney General has the authority to settle, and it's pretty much in their hands at this point. So we only can make recommendations. The board can make the recommendation that, they don't think any lump sum would be necessary. As far as for the program point of view, the 50,000 comes back into our revolving fund. So that would be able to help future farmers. So our stance is that we would want to get the 50,000. If the board feels they don't think anything is necessary, we can send over 2 recommendations to them. The Attorney General's office, just to let them know what this is.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to waive any monies to come back to us from this particular case.
This is Brian. I'm trying to work through the existing motion and your motion. The existing motion is to refer it to the Attorney General's office, I believe, with the recommendation to accept the $50,000 offer. I take it your motion would it be? Well, I mean, okay, so sorry, I'm trying to work this through.
Oh, that's all right.
If you think you could have one amendment that would be consistent, which would be to refer to the Attorney General's office with a recommendation to accept it for $50,000 or less. You could do that, and that would be consistent with the first motion. You could have a position that is inconsistent with the first motion, meaning that your recommendation is to accept or to offer, and you fill in the number, an X amount instead, in which case you would not be in favor of the motion, and you would either need to amend the motion, or you would probably need to make a motion to amend the motion. And then you just have to consider what the impacts would be.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to amend the motion to waive any payment.
Can he do that, or does that have to be done?
So it's the same as the last time. If Diane and Jimmy approved the amendment, although I think maybe their question might be, and reduce it down like to 0, or what's the number?
$1.
Can I suggest discussion before we amend the motion?
Well,
So
We'll have discussion after we have that this issue. So you could say recommend to
Amend the motion.
Well, I'm sort of saying if you go down to zero, it's almost as if you're just referring it to the Attorney General's office to write off. Because you're not seeking to collect anything.
Well, that's why I said $1.
Or a dollar, but, okay, well, all right. All right.
I mean, the
understand.
point, and then we can get into this in the discussion. I would like to just put that motion forward or that amendment forward.
Okay. Diane, as you did the initial motion to approve the request, would you like to amend that motion with the motion to accept $1 instead of 50?
Yes, I'm somewhat in a quandary. I'd kind of like some discussion, but yeah, I can accept that. That's fine.
Okay, and Jimmy?
You're muted.
You're muted, Jimmy?
I'm sorry, I would like to stand by that 50,000. And then not because being insensitive, but it's the point that we've had other cases that prior, and we have basically said we would agree with what they threw out there. So now we're moving forward and it says on a case-by-case basis, a Nakamura is $1. Well, what about the ones that was prior that came before the board? And we went along with what staff agreed. So I have a hard, not to be insensitive, Vince, I know where you're coming from, but I just feel that it's not fair for the other ones that has come before us with a similar situation.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Chair,
Jimmy.
if I may, Jimmy, I appreciate what you're saying. I guess here in this case, it was the due diligence that they, in suffering, the way they're suffering, they're still coming forward in due diligence to say, hey, we want to do this. I was just thinking it could be a really nice statement on our part to, because of that due diligence and what they're putting forth, even with their failing health. So that's where I'm coming from.
Can I just suggest a discussion before amending? Because if we amend the motion, then when we vote on the amended motion. Why don't?
So because there's no agreement by the second, Vincent, I think, has made the motion, and then you need a second, and then you will need a discussion on whether or not to amend the motion. Are you following me? So Vincent, I think, essentially has made a motion. Is there a second? I think is the question.
And without a second,
Then then you're done.
then we're done. Okay, so
I would
is
say,
there,
because I would like the discussion.
okay,
And there's discussion.
okay, so we're in discussion regarding the motion to amend the original motion to take the amount from $50,000 settlement to $1. May I have and now we're in discussion. Any hands? Oh, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where Vince is coming from. However, I agree with Jimmy. I think we're setting a dangerous precedent by doing this. Not only, it's kind of a slap in the face to people in the past that we've agreed to settlement or collection from them. And then going forward, I think it could come back and bite us. So I'm not in favor of this motion.
Okay, and further discussion from Dr. Anya?
So Vince, I also totally understand what you're trying to do, and I think this is worth discussing, but I am supporting what Randy and Jimmy said as well.
Okay. Further discussion on the second? Hearing none, the motion does not pass?
No, then you need a vote. on the
Okay.
motion. And at this point, you may just do a vote.
Okay, let's do a roll call, as this is a little confusing. So what we're voting on right now is to accept the motion, to take the $50,000 settlement amount and substitute it with $1. The motion is to make the amendment to the original motion. And the vote. Sharon votes no. Versus Suji.
No,
Dr. Anya,
No.
Mary Alice is excused. Diane Lay,
No.
Vincent Mina,
aye.
Fred is excused. Then we have Randy,
No,
Ann is excused, and Jimmy.
No.
Motion does not pass. Do we now take a vote on the original motion?
And maybe one last question. I said, any further discussion? on the
Okay.
issue?
Any further discussion on the original motion? Okay, if
No,
none,
yeah, Chair, I'm sorry. Yes, just one point that, just know that I see everybody's points of view and I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you, Vincent. Again, any further discussion on the original motion? Hearing none, would you recommend roll call or?
No.
No. Okay, hearing none, the original motion passes, is approved.
You need to ask for any objections. for
Oh.
extensions.
Okay, any objections to the original motion from the board? Okay, thank you, Brandy. Hearing none, the original motion is approved. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda. Request that one loan to Haven Farms LLC, John Dobovan, be referred to the Attorney General for disposition and or collection. Wait, sorry. May I have a motion to approve the request?
so moved.
Jimmy?
Jimmy, and second by,
Second,
thank you, Randy.
Good morning,
Presentation.
Chair Sharon Hurd, and also members of the board. My name is Wayne Tatamini. I am the business loan officer, and I will be presenting this request. Haven Farms LLC is a Hawaii domestic limited liability company registered with the DCCA on November 14, 2013 by John Dobovan, who is the sole owner, with the trade name Maui Trout Company and Maui Watercress Company, registered on July 6, 2018. On May 31st, 2016, Haven Farm request for an agricultural loan identified as AQLPD-63 was approved for $150,000. The initial security was a first position UCC blanket financing statement. However, the first position was subordinated to USDA Farm Service Agency, so the farm could receive more loan financing to complete its aquaculture system. The division held second position blanket security and key man life insurance policy on the owner. On October 31st, 2022, Mr. Dobovan informed the division that the farm will close after December 31st, 2022. The division sent a demand letter to Mr. Dobovan on January 22nd, 2023, requesting payment in full for the principal balance of $150,000 and include interest of $41,157, totaling $191,157. On January 30th, 2023, the division received a notice of Chapter 7 bankruptcy from the owner of the farm, filed on January 2nd, 2023. On May 30th, 2023, the division received an order of discharge notice from the United States bankruptcy judge ordering the discharge granted to the owner of Haven Farms. Since the bankruptcy and discharge has already been met, Staff recommends that we that the recommendation be approved for Attorney General's intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion? Vince?
Thank you, Chair. It's really interesting, both of these cases this morning. To me personally, it shows that there's such a lack of infrastructural support for agriculture here in our system. And, the fact that a farmer would have to, file for bankruptcy, or the fact that the farmer has failing health and can't meet their loan obligations and all that, it just really speaks to from my point of view, and there's just such a lack of understanding about the importance of agriculture as a whole. And I just really would like to see the system in the future set up in a way that farmers can do what they do best, and that's farm, ranch, and fish. And then, that the community would then support them infrastructurally to be able to do that. So catastrophic things like this, or just, just life isn't going to keep them from being able to exercise their abilities to do these practices. So just wanted to share that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vincent.
I just want to say that the Agricultural Loan Division, we support farmers that have innovation. So sometimes when we're faced with requests for something that's new and innovative, there's a higher risk. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out. In this case, it was a very high-risk loan to start with. It was a startup venture. So we helped as much as we could. If you notice, the principal that we loaned out and the principal balance is the same. So we helped the farm as much as we could. But in the end, it wasn't the division that called the loan. It was actually the farm unable to meet its obligations and had to close because their lease had lapsed.
It's muted.
Oh, Vince, are you speaking?
Oh,
'Cause we can't-
yeah, thank you for that, Dean. I just wanted to clarify too that, a lot of the times farms have to they have to grow faster than they're able to sustain, in the sense that if a calamity happens, like what happened here, all the fish dying, they get too big too fast, in other words, just to make ends meet, just to make loans meet, all that, we don't have the luxury of just being able to evolve and grow. I mean, the perfect thing that happened with our family was that we only had 2,500 square feet to build our farm. That was the best gift I ever had, that I didn't have too much land, so we're able to find a way to be innovative, to make a living on a postage stamp, so to speak. So I just, that's what I'm speaking to. The department's doing the best it can do. You guys truly do a great job in wanting to be there in support of the farmers and ranchers and fishers. I'm speaking to the system as a whole here in Hawaii, and how we see agriculture, and how the government of Hawaii sees the Department of Agriculture in that role, because people look to us to lead. You're the Department of Agriculture. Well, what kind of tools are we being given? What kind of latitude are we given? And that's the question for me. And so I think I just need to show up at the legislature next session and beat on that drum. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vincent. Any further board discussion? Okay, hearing none. Calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, so moving on to item B, Agricultural Resource Management Division. The request for approval for the transfer of public lands from the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Department of Agriculture, who will be preserved. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
I'm sorry, that was Randy?
Yes.
Okay.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Randy and Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Who's-
Brandy. Thank you, Brandy. Okay, Brandy, please proceed.
yeah, just give it
Good morning,
Yes.
everyone. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I am Brandy Ayo, Property Manager with the Arm Division on the Big Island. This morning, we'd like to present a request for approval for the transfer of public lands from the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Department of Agriculture pursuant to Act 90, codified as Chapter 166E, Hawaii Revised Statutes, TMK numbers 3-9-8, 001, 003, 006, and 013, 3-9-6, 001, 002, 3-9-8, 001, 011, and 012, 3-9-8, 001, 009, and 010, 3-4-4, 014, 002, 003, and 011, all on the island of Hawaii. Act 90, Sessions Laws of Hawaii, 2003, established a non-ag park lands program within the Department of Agriculture and was codified as Chapter 166E HRS. Under this program, the legislature found that certain public lands classified for agricultural use by the Department of Land and Natural Resources should be transferred to the HDOA for purposes in a manner consistent with the state constitution. The purpose of this chapter is to ensure the long-term productive use of public lands leased or available to be leased by the DLNR for agricultural purposes by allowing these lands to be transferred to the HDOA for leasing and management. In accordance with the provisions of Act 90, the Board of Agriculture must mutually approve of the selected encumbrances for transfer. On the island of Hawaii, staff verified compliance of 4 encumbrances for approval by BOA as listed below. Staff has reviewed the list of proposed encumbrances and performed its due diligence and recommends that the board approve the transfer of the 4 encumbrances on Hawaii Island as listed above. Thank you.
Hey, Brandy, is there any comment from the public?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, actually, we do have a hand that just got raised. Oh, they went back down.
Again, is there just any comment from the public?
There appears to be none.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there is now. I'd like to call forward Brian Miyamoto. Please state your name and organization.
Brian Miyamoto, Executive Director of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Again, I'm Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on agenda item 4B. Chair, I am present and alone. Thank you, board, for hearing this. This has been a 20-year struggle. I believe many of you are familiar with it, so I won't go into detail. The Hawaii Farm Bureau just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the chair, thank the board, and we urge you and your strong support for the transfer of these lands. Again, it's been a 20-year struggle, 2003. It is now 2023. I don't want to go further. I just wanted to make it public that the Hawaii Farm Bureau stands in strong support, and we urge consideration by the board for item 4B. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you, Brian, for taking time out of your Maui efforts to testify today. Appreciate that. Series of hands. Go ahead, Stephen.
Next, I would like to call forward Nicole Galassi.
Hello, everyone. This is Nicole Galassi, Managing Director for the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Thank you for taking up this matter on today's agenda. Like Brian said, 20 years. It's been 20 years. So the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council is in strong support of DOA accepting these leases from DLNR. DOA is clearly the appropriate managing department for these leases. These leases are in active agriculture. And I just want to thank Chair Hurd and Chair Chang for getting together and actually making moves on Act 90, which is meant to support agriculture for long term. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Next, I'd like to call Jason Muniz.
Thank you. First, good morning. I had submitted some testimony and support. There were comments made and I just wanted to make additional on our 2 TMKs had questions about one I believe had already been removed from the list. And the second is a small 15-acre bottom of the list that was added to the lease 2010. And my concern with that parcel is that it contains some invasive species that's going to take quite a bit of money and effort for us to bring under control. Back in 2010, my request was that that parcel, since it's adjacent to the Kalapa Forest Reserve, be added to.
He might have not had good knowledge. Did that because it looked like he.
Okay, thank you, Jason. We understand that you had concerns about invasive and you're probably going to need some time to take care of it on one of your parcels. You were kind of like disconnected. Is that true?
Oh, he's back.
Okay, Jason's back.
Anyway, so that parcel was basically set aside for USDA Forest Service. We lease, and then back in 2010 was added back to the lease. It's basically all trees. We can raise it, but it does have a section with this invasive ash, and that's invaded the lease, and it's also invaded the forest reserve. But it's going. We're controlling it on the ranch. We have to get additional funds to control it further. But I didn't want to take on that added responsibility of 115 acres if it could go back to DLNR. But if it's going to delay things and too difficult to do, and so my comment this morning is forget it if it's going to delay.
So he's saying I prefer not to, but if the other commissioner won't delay, so it's just a comment.
Okay. So Jason, it's been clarified that the comment that you've offered is a valid comment, but you did finish it by saying that should the 15 acres be an issue to delay the lease, you will move forward with the lease as being part of the transfer. Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So is it appropriate to ask Dylan to come right now?
Yeah, this really is going to be continued. These are going to be the ones to sign.
Okay.
You can ask, but I mean, it's really.
Okay, I'm gonna ask DLNR, Russell, if you have a comment, otherwise we'll just move
Yeah,
on.
from what I understand, the withdrawal of those acres and set aside to Department of Land and Natural Resources for forestry purposes is a condition of the approval. So it would affect the approval, at least on the BLNR side.
Okay, so then it stays in the lease, Jason?
I'm sorry, Russell, did you say that it was withdrawn or it's included?
It hasn't been withdrawn. It needs to be withdrawn. Yeah. It's a
Okay.
condition of the transfer, yes.
Okay, okay. So it's one of the conditions of the DLNR's transfer is that area.
Yeah, I believe Department of Ag had agreed that it would I believe it would withdraw it, I believe.
If we approve this motion, we can fix it later.
Yeah.
Okay,
So Russell, just to be clear,
I'm not sure if subdivision is going to be required, but I'm just saying that there's a withdrawal, you know, out of the so much acres that was being transferred. I think the issue was certain amount needed to be, was supposed to be withdrawn for DOFA. Is that, was that what the issue was Mr. Muniz brought up?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he didn't want it delaying the transfer, but if we transfer the whole thing, then the DLNR's incentive, which was to get a portion of the leased premises for its forestry operation, would be defeated. Is that right? Am I understanding correctly?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, the submittal, the way it's written, transfers 3 TMKs. So my point was that I believe 1 TMK 003 no longer exists on the lease that was withdrawn in 2010. The other point was that there's a 15-acre parcel on the bottom that's TMK 011. I would prefer that not come over to us, but if it's going to delay things, then forget it, just leave it.
Okay.
I had a hard time understanding what he was saying, but I think if the first one, if it's actually not part of the current lease, then I think that's it'll be flushed out in the actual transfer documents. On the second point, it sounds as though I think that's what we're discussing, was that it was something the forestry division had requested that it be taken out of the transfer or the lease, which would then transfer over to DOA.
so if I understand this correctly, Russell, if HDOA approves this motion, then ultimately it's going to be up to DLNR as to what they are agreeing to transfer. So if DLNR, well, let me rephrase that. If we're talking about withdrawing land from the list that HDOA is approving.
That's what I believe Mr. Muniz was talking about, right? The second point.
Yes. So if that's the case, then if HDOA approves the motion today and later DLNR approves a smaller portion, then it is the smaller portion that will move to HDOA because you need both approvals.
You need both approvals. The
Yeah,
question
so
is whether the smaller portion approval is valid enough to transfer at least the smaller portion, or it just invalidates the both approvals altogether. Yeah, because the Act 90 did require approval of both boards. Yeah.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's not agreement on that 15-acre parcel, then that 15-acre parcel does not transfer over. And that the HDOA approval does not affect the remainder of the parcels.
I think that's a legal question, Mr. Yi.
Right. Right. That's what I'm trying to explain.
That's the legal opinion, Russell?
I'm not sitting here as an attorney. I'm sorry.
It wasn't a question, Russell. Sorry. I wasn't asking you to, I was just trying to explain my understanding.
Okay.
Okay. Any further comment from Russell? Otherwise, we're moving to Vince. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in favor of this motion. I just wanted to find out though, is this all pasture land that's being transferred? And is there water access on any of these lands?
Is that a Brandy question? Brandy, are you still on?
Yes, the answer is
Okay.
yes.
Yes on both counts, Brandy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
If I may,
They're
Chair, I think if you look back on Mr. Moniz's lease, there might have been an approval to use a certain portion of his land that is leased was for pasture at pasture rates, but instead of limiting the use to pasture so much percent, I think it was 10% or so, Mr. Moniz, that the Board of Land and Natural Resources authorized a different use, is what I understand is diversified agriculture, which is that was part of, which is normally charged at a higher rate, but it was kept at a pasture rent rate. And I believe it was in connection with the the area that needed to be withdrawn, Mr. Muniz, in connection with the Daniel K. Inouye Highway. Is that right? I'm asking Mr. Muniz if he could confirm. That was my understanding, Brian. There's a certain portion of the lease that is authorized to be for diversified ag.
Yeah, am I still on?
Yes, you're still on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Oh, you're
can.
very garbled.
Yeah, can you hear now, Jimmy?
Now it's better, a lot better, Jason.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, there was, to the
Oh, we're going again garbled,
legislature,
you sing it.
Yeah, we went to the legislature with Senator, was then Senator David Matsuura. With the request we had was for an automatic lease extension in place of the withdrawal that we were being subjected to. And David added on this 10% of the lease could be used for alternate agriculture at no increase in a rental. Legislature did not pass the automatic lease withdrawal, but the 10% passed. We have not utilized that just because the lands we have, we don't feel are conducive for agriculture except possibly growing trees. And none of the other lessees that were affected, as far as I know, have made use of that provision, but it is in there.
Okay, Jim. Jason, whatever you were doing just now worked really well. We could hear you very clearly. Any comment from Russell?
Okay, okay, but.
And I believe that lease document was reflected to allow the diversified ag on so many acres, yeah. Just letting
Okay.
the staff know.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize because there's a public testimony that's been in line for a while. I neglected to recognize Lani.
Lonnie, you can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just provided written testimony. I wanted to be here today to answer any questions if I can, and also to thank you for the consideration of accepting our leases and revocable permits for transfer.
Thank you, Lonnie. Move on to board discussion.
Yes.
Okay, Lonnie's available for questions, but we're going to continue with the board discussion, recognizing Dan Lay.
Thank you, Chair. Overall, I really would like to see these this transfer move forward, but I do have a question regarding Mr. Muniz's, concerns. I read through his testimony several times to make sure I was clear about what he wanted to do. And then the communication back and forth between himself, Russell, and council was not very clear in terms of Russell referred to being able to flesh out some of these issues in the transfer. It sounds really vague. I just not clear. And there's a set aside to for forestry. I guess I'm wondering if, in order to move this forward, two steps. One is, can we separate out the one TMK that's of concern and vote separately on that? And then also along those lines, if we can do that, if Russell Suji as land administrator, when he goes before the land board, can also make similar suggestions, so that if there's a problem with that doesn't hold up everything.
Thank you, Diane. I'm going to ask council to clarify.
Okay, so let me restrict myself to the 15 acres that Mr. Moniz is suggesting he does not want to include. So the issue, let's start with sort of the basics everybody's familiar with. In order for land to be transferred, it must be approved by both BLNR and the Hawaii Department, the Board of Agriculture. If the board approves, the board has two options. It could approve the motion as it currently states, which is all of the land, which includes the 15 acres. The problem with, or it could not approve the motion in order to wait for that 15 acres to be separately subdivided and withdrawn. The problem with the 15 acres currently is, as my understanding, it is not a separate TMK. So it would have to be, you know, you have to do the meets and bounds, identify it, and be able to then withdraw that. It can be done, certainly, but it probably cannot be done today. If you approve it and DLNR approves a smaller portion, that DLNR says, okay, we agree to withdrawal and the subdivision, et cetera, then it is my belief and understanding that you would not need a further Board of Agriculture approval, because the remainder of the land that was approved by both BLNR and the Board of Agriculture would be then valid and can move forward. And the 15 acres that BOA might have approved, but BLNR did not, would not transfer over. That is my understanding. BLNR may have a different opinion, but that's my understanding. So does that clarify?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, thank you. And then recognizing that BLNR is its own staff attorney and decision-making board. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Moving on to Randy Cabral.
Yeah, Chair, I'm certainly in favor of the transfer. And again, I want to reiterate what the others have said about you and Chair Chang working on this, and we certainly appreciate that. I just want to make sure that if we take out this 15 acres at this thing, it doesn't hang up the whole transfer issue. And my question would be, if it's got to be surveyed out, will the transfer be held up until the survey is done by DLNR? Or does it transfer and then DOA does the survey to get it out?
I don't think who does the surveys. I mean, that's just, there's nothing legal about who does the survey. The survey would have to be done though by someone. And I think before BLNR approves, they would want that survey completed or to identify it.
Right.
And it would really have to be, I think, in order to identify the land correctly.
The survey would need to be done. And I'm speaking here as a staffer now, I'm not a board member of AG. But this is, it has to be done in order to do the executive order for the set aside. You have to at least have maps. There's a question of whether the AGs will approve short of a formal subdivision. We've done that before. It becomes problematic if the land later needs to be encumbered with a mortgage and you haven't subdivided it out. That becomes an issue. So it's cleaner to do the subdivision, but we understand it takes a long time. It's a county council process to subdivide land, so that could take a long time. The survey, it just depends on how quick the survey can be done. And I think if I understood correctly, on these Act 90 transfers, a lot of the DOA staff was performing the surveys.
Cool.
Then my question is for Jason, are you still on?
I'll bring him back later.
Jason will be brought back on.
Yeah, I'm still on.
Jason, hearing what was just said and possibly delaying this whole thing getting transferred, are you okay with moving ahead with just transferring the whole thing at this point, or you still want to take out that 15?
Yeah, okay with transferring the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers the question.
Thank you, Randy. Any further comment? Otherwise, we'll move to Jimmy.
Right. Again, I want to reiterate Brian Miyamoto, Farm Bureau, Nicole Gillespie, Lonnie, Jason. It's been a long, hard process over the years as my time on DLNR board and now with DOA. But again, Sharon and Don, you guys have kind of brought it to the table and did a great job. But I do agree with Jason. You know, we've got to move this forward, and we need to make this approval. It's been long enough, and everybody suffered enough, and we can work the other 15 acres down the road, because who knows if we don't, how long will this take? So we're at here now, we can make the call. Let's make the call in favor of it per staff recommendation. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Jimmy. Calling on Dr. Anya.
Yes, I just wanted to echo what Jimmy said, and I am in strong support of moving this forward, because as we heard, this has been 20 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further board discussion? Okay, calling for the vote.
Just before we vote, Chair, can I get clarification? We're voting on the staff recommendation as is, or was it amended? I can't recall.
I'm sorry, yeah, I should have clarified that. We are voting on the staff recommendation as presented.
Thank you.
Okay, any objections? Should I take a vote? I'm gonna say, hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you. Moving on to item C, Plant Industry Division, Plant Quarantine Branch, item 1. Request for review of the petition from Tiffany Leilani Nerveza Clark to initiate administrative rulemaking and rule amendment to chapter 4-71 HAR to change the list placement of the hybrid Savannah cat with the domestic cat from the list of prohibited animals to enable individual possession. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved, Jimmy.
Jimmy, thank you. And second?
Second, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. And presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chair, board members. My name is Jonathan Hope. I am the acting plant quarantine branch manager. As Chair stated, we have a request from Ms. Leilani Nerveza Clark to change the list placement of hybrid Savannah cat. And on June 23rd of 2023, the chairperson's office received a petition to allow the importation of Savannah cats on a case-by-case basis. The request was initially presented to the board at its July meeting, but was subsequently deferred. There was some testimony, all in opposition. Savannah cats are on the list of prohibited animals, basically because they are crosses of a wild cat species, the serval, and with a domestic cat. And animals on the list of prohibited animals are not allowed for importation by any person into the state. The petition is brought before the board pursuant to 4-1, which allows the initiation of rulemaking by any person. And in the section, there is a requirement that the board approve or disapprove within 30 days. There was a procedural denial letter that was provided to Ms. Nerveza Clark in the middle of July. We emailed it to her on the 18th and mailed it to her on the 19th. Provided that the board basically acts favorably on this provision, on this request, permits that require rule amendments do cost $2,500 to initiate. Ms. Nerveza Clark's petition does appear to apply to the substantive requirements for a petition and to initiate rulemaking. And based on her request for importation on a case-by-case basis, the only way that the branch could see accommodating that would be to change the list placement of the prohibited cats, removing them from the list of prohibited animals by creating an exception specifically for Savannah cats, and then placing them on the list of conditionally approved animals, which would allow them for importation for individual possession, and would allow the board to establish permit conditions essentially on a case-by-case basis. The staff's recommendation is that the board deny the request to initiate rulemaking, as there's not enough information provided in the petition, nor was any information provided reviewed by the advisory subcommittees and the advisory committee on plants and animals, which is standard procedure for the board. However, if the board does desire to review the request for further review, we can work with the petitioner to complete the full advisory review and then bring back this request before the board at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Asking for public testimony?
Oh, sorry, the petitioner is actually on the phone. She called in, so if the board does have questions for her, she is available to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Jonathan. Does anyone from the public wish to make testimony?
I'd like to first call up Kathy Gogel.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Kathy Gogel. I'm president of Animal Rights Hawaii. You have our written comments, but I felt it so very important to speak about this in person because Hawaii has let in so many animals that have proved to be destructive. For the benefit of our ʻāina, I do ask that this proposal be denied. I really, really hope that you will not change the rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the testimony, Kathy. Any further public discussion?
There is not. Did you want me to bring Miss Clark up, who's called in? It doesn't have to change. Just wanted to speak the option, just because it's harder to I'm 9.
Okay, all right. So as a member of the public, should she want to make a comment, feel free. Could you raise your hand?
Yep. If you would like to speak, you could click the pound and then 9 button on your handset. Doesn't appear to be raising her hand, so.
Okay. Right, board discussion. Hearing none, calling for the vote. Jimmy Gomes.
You're muted.
Muted, Jimmy.
I'm sorry, I'm in support of the board's recommendation, as well as all the other groups and state agencies who have objected and is in opposition. And that's just my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Recognizing Vincent.
Yes, Chair, I'm also going to be in support, yet at the same time, I just wanted to recognize Ms. Clark's petition here, and I hope, being Native Hawaiian probably is one of the reasons she's, want to be here and living in Hawaii. I just hope there's flexibility on her part to maybe just stay with her animals where they are on the mainland. But I feel for her and appreciate her petition, but I would stand behind the department in support of this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vincent. Further discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections to the motion?
Chair, for clarification again, it's to accept staff's recommendation to deny the petition. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Russell.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, any objections? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, moving on to section 5, old business. There's no old business, so for section 6 new business, we do have something on the new business item, and that is to announce that there's a request to reduce the Department of Agriculture irrigation water rate increase. Request to reduce our water rate increase. Okay, the reason this was put in the new business is just to advise the board and I guess the public that there is a public hearing tonight in this room, but it's also, if you go to our website, the information on how to tune in virtually is there. Just to advise that based on the Ag Resource Management hearing today and the recommendations from the public, we will be bringing this matter to the board in a future meeting, as well as submitting a bill this session, asking the legislature to uncouple staff salaries. There's 6 irrigation salaries that are tied to the water fees, which makes it, it kind of makes it necessary to do one, as salaries increase, we do have to increase the water rates, otherwise you'll just, it won't match out in the future, one will exceed the other. So the legislative ask this year will be to uncouple the salaries from the being paid by the fees. That was just an announcement, information based for the board and the public. Okay, so that being done, I think we're at the end of our meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Chair,
Yes.
excuse me, I just wanted to make a final comment. And wanted to thank everybody throughout the state. I mean, we're here on Kauai, and the support for Maui is just so heartening. And folks throughout the state are feeling it very deeply. And it's just, I just wanted to make a statement in the spirit of just appreciating everybody's love and support throughout the state for what's going on with all the wildfires, not just in Lahaina, but in Kula and Linda and Kihei, and how the response has just been incredible. So thank you so much, everybody.
And don't forget Hawaii Island. There was
That's true enough in Hawaii Island. That's right. Absolutely.
So thank you for that, Vince. It is always well placed to make comments like that. Thank you. Back to the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry. The motion was to adjourn was made by
Jimmy.
And seconded by
Vince.
Mr. Vince. Okay. Board discussion, if any. Okay. Hearing no discussion, calling for the vote. Any objections? Okay, so the meeting is adjourned, but before we go, Jonathan, did you have an announcement to make?
Anyways, for the folks on Oahu, there was a press release, but there's gonna be a buy local flower edition in the boardroom. And it's basically a public free event where folks can come and basically utilize local floral. And we'll have folks from Hefner and stuff. And basically there'll be a big event in the conference room this Saturday from 9 to 12, if I remember correctly. So yeah, if you have folks that are on Oahu, or if you guys are here, feel free to come by. Yeah, spread the word. Thank you.
The reason it's in the plant quarantine branch is because we'll be having a lot of informational booths.
Oh, yeah, and yes, yeah, there'll be informational booths and stuff like that, and then, we have the space available here, so that's basically why we're doing it here.
You'll get to hear about coconut rhinoceros beetle and the other invasive.
Koki, LFA, brown tree snake,
Yeah.
a lot of.
Two-line spittlebug. So yeah, thank you, Jonathan. That was an invitation to the public to come and join us here. Everything's at no cost to you. Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 10:30. Thank you very much. Next meeting, September 19th.
September 19th.
Thank you, Chair. September 19th. Thank you, board.
And Chair, you have a great person in Marcy there. So thank you, Marcy, for getting the information out.
Thank you. She is wonderful.
Take care.
Thank you.
Aloha.